Hello everyone. Well, let's continue on with The Mummy's Tomb. The Mummy's Tomb picks up the story 30 years after the conclusion of the previous film. It begins with Steve Banning reciting the story of Karras to his family and evening guests in his Mapleton, Massachusetts home. Footage from The Mummy's hand appears as Banning tells his tale. As he concludes his tale of the successful destruction of the creature, the scene switches back to the tombs of Egypt. Surviving their supposed demise, Ando-Eb explains the legend of Karras to his follower, Mehmet Bey. After passing on the instructions for the use of the Tanna leaves and assigning the task of terminating the remaining members of the Banning expedition and their descendants, Ando-Eb expires. Bey and Karras leave Egypt for the journey to the United States. Bey takes the caretaker's job at the local cemetery, sets up shop, and administers the Tanna brew to Karras. The monster is out to avenge the desecration of Menaka's tomb. His first victim is Stephen Banning, whom the creature kills as the aging archaeologist prepares for bed. Dun dun dun. As the sheriff and coroner can't come up with a lead, newspapermen converge on Mapleton to learn more about the murder. Babe Hansen arrives on the scene and after learning of his friend's death. While Jane Banning, Steve's sister, is killed, Hansen is convinced it is the work of a mummy. Meeting with the sheriff and coroner, Hansen is unable to convince them of the identity of the culprit. He tells the story to a newspaperman at the local bar, but is himself dispatched by Karras almost immediately afterwards. John Banning enlists the help of Professor Norman to solve the puzzle of the grayish mark found in the victims. Norman's test results prove that Hansen was right. The substance was indeed mold from a mummy. Duh. Meanwhile, Bey has plans of his own. Knowing that Banning and his girlfriend Isabel Evans are planning to marry, he sets out to disrupt their nuptials. Bey himself has become smitten with Isabel and sends Karras on a mission to bring her to him. Karras initially balks, but finally adheres to Bey's command. In the dark of the night, the monster stealthily enters Evans' home and abducts the fainting girl to the cemetery caretaker's hut. Bey unveils his plan to the reluctant Isabel, as she is to become the bride of himself as a high priest of Karnak, and bear him an heir to the royal line. Banning and the rest of the townspeople have become convinced that their recent Egyptian transplant may be involved in the crimes. Arriving in force, they confront Bey outside the hut. Karras slips away with Isabel unbeknownst to the horde, and Bey attempts to shoot Banning, but he is himself gunned down by the sheriff. The creature is observed heading toward the Banning estate, and the group begins pursuit, many bearing torches. Inside the home, Banning holds Karras at bay with a torch while he rescues Isabel from the mummy's grasp, but inadvertently sets fire to some curtains. Uh-oh. With the aid of the sheriff and coroner, John and Isabel escape via a trellis as Karras pursues them out onto the upstairs balcony. The townspeople keep the mummy from escape by hurling additional torches at him, and the monster perishes in the flames of the thoroughly consumed house. Banning and Isabel win in short order, as he has received his draft notice and is due to report for a sort of duty in World War II. Wow, so that was pretty interesting, huh? Anyway, let's look at some production elements of this movie. The Mummy's Tomb was the first of Lon Chaney's 3 mummy features, begun June 1st, 1942, and went to October 23rd on a double bill with Night Monster. The film was released on October 23rd, 1942, and later had a re-release in February 1st, 1948. Later part of the original Shock Theater package of 52 Universal titles released to television in 1957, followed a year later with Son of Shock, which added 20 more features. So, yeah, some pretty interesting stuff overall, I'd say. Well, overall, I give The Mummy's Tomb 4 jack-o'-lanterns out of 5. Well, join me tomorrow as we become haunted by the mummy's ghost. So, until then, see you guys tomorrow. Bye.